What's up, everybody? New episode of the Paul James Show tonight. I am your host, Paul James, and today we are going to go through a whole range of big, hard-hitting, end-of-round footy conversation. I say the end of the round, but we do still have a live match going on right now. We're going to pick apart the Geelong game, where we lost to St. Kilda by 7 points in some depth. We're going to go around the grounds with everything else that's played out this week, Nuff of the week, and we're going to spend a bunch of time answering your questions with a fairly lengthy Q&A section, I would say, tonight. So it's relatively simple. It's a nice, straightforward structure that we're going to get into tonight, but we are going to jump straight into the worst news of the week if you are a Geelong fan, and that is the fact that we lost a game that none of us really expected to lose going into it. And so the final scores read: Geelong 13-13-91, had plenty of shots in the end, going down to the Saints 15. Oh, sorry. Didn't know it was recent. 15-8-98. The goal kickers for the Cats, 2 goals, 1 to Dempsey, Stengel, and Ted Closey. Ted Closey kicking his first, and then his second. It was a great performance from him. Whilst for the Saints, Jack Higgins, who always gets off the leash with us these days, those small forwards keep doing damage to us. He kicked 4 goals, 1. Windhager with 2 goals, 1. Mason Wood with 2 goals, 1. Whilst on the disposal side, well, we got obliterated in the overall disposal camp for the night. There was about 10, or close to 10 Saints that had more possessions than our best. But Lawson Humphries with 22, Zach Guthrie with 21, Graham Myers with 20, most of which were in the second half. While for the Saints, Jack McRae with 35, Nasiah Wangani Millera with 29, and Rowan Marshall also with 29. Cut us to ribbons, did some of those blokes. And of course, I'll be looking to solicit some of your questions as we get through the show tonight. I think there's still a lot to discuss about it. I obviously did the full match review video, which you can check out on the Hoops Crew YouTube video now. It's been up for, 10 hours at this point. So consider checking that one out and sharing any thoughts with me there. I know there's plenty of people that have been active in the comment section, but of course, and I'm going to check that now, I'm just keeping a bit of an eye out for any comments that have come through directly on the video that I can maybe try and splice into the show tonight. But of course, if there are any comments, any thoughts about the game from the likes of Shadu and Jackie that are watching at the moment, then please shout them out in the chat. Would be keen to bounce ideas off with you. But for me, I mean, it is in many ways the whole game of two halves sort of thing. Chris Scott was quick to kind of, I guess, hone in more on execution and those sort of things as opposed to preparedness and like mental preparedness for the game. I feel like I'm somewhere in between. There are certainly things about the conditions. Certainly, not playing that ground properly. It's been a recurring pattern for quite some time now, especially against the Saints. And here's a great comment from Gary here, who suggests that we need to send Atkins back to stop those opposition small forwards. I mean, yeah. Especially while Buse is out injured, and I believe it's a 7 to 11 week tendon issue in his hand. Especially while Jed Buse is out, we need to flip the magnets around a little bit so we can shut down these smalls, because it's not working for us at the moment. We've obviously got some players who kind of, at face value, if we just talk about kind of height, 1 for 1 in that sort of respect, we've got some players who fit the bill. You'd think about a Lawson Humphries or a Zach Guthrie, but they're so effective as rebounding players that they're kind of wasted's not the right word, but they're not being utilized to their greatest capacity if they go and lock down a small forward. We do need someone like a Tom Atkins who can go and address that concern, this ongoing concern that is our ability to shut down those small forwards for the opposition. Jed Buse, for mine, is absolutely the best we've got at it. It's why I was so adamant that late last season he needed to come in, and he did. And now we desperately need him back, as far as I'm concerned. And it's a bit disappointing, I think, that we don't have others yet, anyway, who are ready and able to step into that role. Because, I mean, Collar's going to be back in a couple of weeks, but he's not he doesn't tackle that sort of player. So yeah, I think someone who can kind of close down those small forwards, that really hard-nosed defender is absolutely what we need. Tom Atkins, I think, can do that job, but I think there was also a bit of a need for him at different points, and ultimately Danger was the one that really did the heavy lifting for us. But at points we kind of need that hard-nosed edge at the contest in the midfield, and Tom Atkins brings that too. So it's trying to get that balancing act just right. Mullen was better, and I can see him being an option for us in the long term. And look, Jack Higgins, to his great credit, took some really great opportunistic chances. There was plenty of scenarios where the ball bounced into his lap or ricocheted into his hands, and you could be the best defender of small forwards in the world, and you wouldn't have been able to do much about it. Ultimately, the delivery inside 50 was just far superior from the Saints, especially in the first half, and that causes all sorts of issues. But it does link to the questions that I'm seeing here from Shadu. There's two different questions here. Can we sustain Danger in the forward line long term? If we can get all our troops out there, your Bailey Smiths and co, then yes. I think we can. And he probably only needs to go in fits and spurts. I think what we're quickly learning is I don't think Danger should be solely the forward pocket, half forward flanker that I think he was being discussed as at the beginning of the season. Not because he's incapable of it, because he's needed elsewhere. I would love to see Danger floating through the midfield every few center clearance opportunities, just to, I guess, he's a barometer. He's our club's greatest barometer these days, and if he's passing through there from time to time, he sets a tone and a cadence for everyone else, and that lingers for a while. And if you start to see it waning, they've got metrics. If you're starting to see it waning, or even the eye test is saying, okay, we need to inject a little something here into the contest. We're starting to get beaten up. We're starting to struggle. You go, okay, let's unleash him again. And you can, there's ways to manage his minutes, preserve his body, but also utilize him in all of his best ways. And I think just the way we manage Danger and kind of roll him through from time to time is the way we can handle this. That links to the other half of the question, which do I think there was arrogance? A little bit. I do think that they just thought it was going to happen, because all the talk is St. Kilda bottom 4 team this year. And look, I subscribe to that, and I still believe that will be the case by the time the year is out. But I'd be stunned that if they did genuinely have an arrogant approach to it, simply due to the fact that we've lost 3 on the trot there. You'd think they'd come in ready to go and ready to try and make a statement against a team that they should beat any day of the week. And they did in that second half, or that last quarter and a half, really. The problem was they let themselves get behind by 41 points at one stage. It was just, yeah, I think that's where the little bit of arrogance came in. And I think that inexperience in some areas, the young blokes, for my mind, were some of the best players on the field throughout the entirety of the match. And I think about your Ted Closeys, your Jai Clarks, who didn't necessarily get stacks of the ball, but were consistent all night. Connor O'Sullivan fits that bill. Lawson Humphreys fits that bill. So many of the young guys, the under 21s, or maybe the under 22s, 23s, they were fantastic. But they don't have the capacity that a Patrick Dangerfield has, or a Mark Blitzars has, or a Jeremy Cameron does, or a Brian Myers does. And those guys were all down significantly in the first half, and that's where we're really, really lacking. Gary's also saying, as I said last week, which I do recall this comment, I believe Brad Close needs to put himself somewhere near the football for a change. I think he does that really well when the ball is actually being delivered inside 50. The vast majority of the game, for my mind, the ball lingered between Geelong's the 50-metre line and the St. Kilda goal square. It wasn't coming into our forward 50 where he can, and we saw it especially in the last quarter. Suddenly, the ball's getting in deeper, and he's able to impact the contest. He's tapping the ball on. He's soccering shots at goal that rightly were overturned. But when the ball's not making it in there, Grime-wise, I think we've got kind of two key link-up players, and I think that's been pretty well established for a while. That it's Brad Close and it's Grime Myers. Grime Myers is more that one that's going to get further up the field. I feel he's the one that's more willing to stray all the way up to the defensive 50 and maybe even deeper inside it to get the ball and then start to create the play moving up the ground. Brad Close I see as the forward who's more your forward pocket, who plays that similar sort of role, but he's a forward pocket that then maybe progresses to the center circle, and that's about it. Trying to stretch the field, which means by nature of that role, he's going to be further away from the play more often than not, unless we, of course, are dominating that particular match. Jack Bowes needs to get into some form, Ben says. Look, I defended him pretty hard last week because I think there was a lot of immeasurables that he executed on really well. You're right, though, Saturday night, I feel like he just kind of went missing. Wasn't nearly as effective as what he was the week before and what we saw throughout 2024. So that'll come with time, I think. The ferocity at the ball hasn't waned, but he just seems to be a bit lost. Can't quite seem to read the play as well as he has in the past. Shadu, we've just kind of spoken about Brad Close there, so I'm mindful of not kind of wading back into that one. Can't play Marvel has, I'm trying to push through these a little bit quicker so we maintain the rhythm of the show here. Can't play Marvel, got done there last year, and we're on a roll at that stage. Round 2 after a stinking hot game, good lesson. Look, let's not forget 2022, where our last loss was to St. Kilda at Marvel, and we went on to win every game from that point and win the flag. Let's hope that happens this year, right? What have we got here? Ben suggesting Brad Close would be All-Australian if he could average 20 disposals a game. I think he'd come really close as well because if he gets that many disposals, he kicks 2 or 3 most of the time. Our forwards don't play in the forward line. They play on the wing and run into the forward line. Close doesn't. No, again, I think that's because he's playing deeper and then out. So he plays that same capacity, but his role, I think, is that link up closer to goal. And you do see his goal assist tally really kind of is dependent upon the amount of ball going inside 50, whereas Brian can do more of that from further out. That's just my mind, I guess. All right, let's continue to push on with the game and some other key notes from that game. Bailey Smith was, of course, a late out, replaced by Ted Closey, who had a fantastic game from that kind of, early in the second quarter that he came in. But the game was we were in peril pretty early, 6-1 to the Saints at quarter time. Horrible start. The Saints are now 4 games in a row victors against us at Marvel. Oh, here we go. Got some stats. Lawson Humphries leading the YouTube poll for the Roll of Honor with 52% of the votes. Deservedly so as far as I'm concerned. The Tom Stewart knee injury so far, and I did hear a report from Jay Clark today at the Herald Sun and some limited capacity still through Triple M, but also Fox Footy, is that there is some level of concern that it might be a more significant PCL. PCLs can range from 2 weeks through to 3 months. And Jay Clark seemed to be more of the mind that it was closer to 3 months, or there was some growing fears that it was going to be closer to 3 months. We'll wait and see, I guess. He would have gone for scans today. If anything comes out during the show, please be sure to let me know. I'm keen to have a bit of a look and see what is being said there. Whilst Paddy Dangerfield, that came out in the last hour or two, has only received a fine for the high elbow against Ryan Burns that didn't even really aggravate too many Saints players. I think there's a couple that went to go fly the flag, but really it was kind of water off a duck's back. There was nothing to see there. Insufficient contact would be my feeling there. I didn't actually see the hows and whys that was thrown out and given just a fine, but I would say insufficient contact would be the main thing there. All right. We are, of course, going to field a whole lot more questions about the game, and we'll get back to those when we get the opportunity to go through some Q&A. But next, we'll go around the grounds, where right now, like I said, we do have a game that is live. Currently, there is 1 point in it, so I'm going to flash up the graphic here that is representative of how things currently stand with Fremantle winning. Ben, you didn't even update your graphics, but there it is. That's better. There's been a few different versions. At one stage today, you did not have a North Melbourne victory graphic there. All right, let's keep moving on. Carlton and the Hawks. Well, the Hawks got the job done pretty comfortably in the end. 20 points at the MCG. Tom De Koning was fantastic, the future cat for the Blues. The Hawks moved to a 3-0 start. And Carlton are in free fall now with 0-2 kicking their season off. And they're not in a good way right now at all. One of the more controversial games of the weekend involved the Dogs and the Pies because the Pies got a fair rub of the green when it comes to the umpiring. I believe it was 33 free kicks to 14 or something like that in favour of the Pies. And there were some atrocious decisions that I remember in particular late in the piece. Nick Dacos basically just running the ball over the boundary line and not being called deliberate. This is not a Nick Dacos thing. That was just, it happened to be him. It was blatantly obvious. It could have been any player on the field for either team. It was so obvious what he was trying to do in that particular case. And there was just some pretty ordinary decisions game wide there that really, I'm not even talking about the free kick count, but it was the actual decisions or lack of decisions that were being made that really, I think, cost the Dogs in this case, and I think really hurt the spectacle somewhat as well. But so Scott Pendlebury and Steele Sidebottom broke a record held by Joel Selwood and Tom Hawkins on the night, with the most games played in the AFL as teammates, now reaching 308 with that match. Reef McInnes has done an ACL and is done for the year. The Pies have won 2 straight after that awful start against the Giants. They're making a bit of a statement now, while the Dogs have slipped to 0-2 to begin the season. Not a great place for them. Next up, the Saturday games. We've, of course, already discussed the Saints and the Cats, so we'll focus on some of the other matches there. The first one being the Bombers and the Crows, where the Crows smoked those Bombers. Ben, you've been kidding yourself for years that the Bombers are going to be any good. This is further evidence of that fact. They went down by 61 points to the Crows. Adelaide has snapped a 10-game losing streak at the MCG. I don't know how many more opportunities they're going to get at the G over the course of the year, but I suspect they're going to win a fair few more because this is a team that I absolutely underrated going into the season, and they have started off the season in fine form. Now, admittedly, they've beaten 2 teams that we all expect to be lower-ranked teams, but of course the Saints did just beat us, so we won't get too carried away. But they're starting really strong. All you can do is go and win, home or away, and win as comfortably, comprehensively as you can, and they've been doing that. So sit up and pay attention to the Crows. We've got a home game. We've got a game against them. Gather round in just a few weeks. Hopefully we can turn our form around against the Lions. Ben has noted here, the Bombers' defensive structure is a joke. And he's also, just noted in the comments here that the Bombers are about to go on a 20-game winning streak. Mate, they're about to, well, they've already gone 20 years of a finals winning drought. They're going to go 21 this year. Their drought is going to be old enough to drink in every country in the world very soon. They're going to get smashed several times this season. They've got no defensive structure, as Ben's put in the notes there. He quoted it as a joke. I would agree. Ben Mackay, absolutely a mess as a key defender. But then some of the others that are coming through, like Reed, they're just not ready. I would say when it comes to the Crows, I don't love that. So they scored 161 points themselves, but they still gave up 100. I think there's some real opportunity there for them to also tighten up in their own defense. The Essendon forward line is not that potent. I think they could find themselves in some shootouts over the course of the year, which feels very, when was it? It was 2015, 2016, not long before Adelaide then went on to play in a grand final a year or two before. Yeah, I think that's something they need to still look into. There's some of their defensive structure because they play against a high quality team who is going to, limit their amount of goal scoring opportunities. If they're going to keep, letting goals slip through, that's going to be dangerous for them. So something I think for the Crows to watch is their defensive structures as well. But they go on to a 2-0 start. The Bombers at 0-2. Ben says they're in big trouble, but also thinks they're about to go on a 20-game winning streak. Make up your mind, mate. But we all know what's going to happen. They're going to get smashed from here on in. Next up, another hiding. Port Adelaide defeated Richmond by 72 points at Adelaide Oval. Travis Boak's 393rd game breaks Russell Ebert's club record, 393 games. Holy shit. Sorry, kids. Bussy, if you've got any kids you need to cover their ears. Stay tuned for Nuff of the Week, people. My gosh, I went for it this time. I should put like a swearing alert. Rated E for cover your ears. The Power have now won five straight against the Tigers. They're probably going to win a few more in a row against the Tigers before the Tigers can break that again, because that team is in development. They absolutely played above themselves the week before against the Blues, and the Blues let them in. But that was the harsh reality check that the Tigers needed. Oh, there's Bussy there. The kids are in the dog box for Geelong's loss. Okay, good. They're safe then. Support Square, their ledger at one win and one loss. Richmond also fall back down to ground with a thud. They're now 1-1, and you suspect it might be a while before they win their next game. We've touched on the Saints and the Cats. We'll move into the Sunday games, where we have two that are finalised. And after getting a massive scare, the Lions still got up against the Eagles by 19 points. West Coast led for most of the game, but were overrun in the end. It was those young bodies, the experienced bodies of the Lions, that then got the job done. Brisbane have won 7 in a row against the Eagles. The hangover doesn't seem to be on. That said, they haven't been super comprehensive and up to this point, so it'll be really interesting to see how they go in a head-to-head with us, the Cats, next week. The Lions are 2-0. The Eagles 0-2, but it was very admirable as far as I'm concerned. And Harley Reid, before he comes to Geelong, he's going to flip off every single supporter he can, because he flipped off the Brisbane crowd through the game, and he's undoubtedly going to get a fine for that. Ben has also echoed what I stressed before. I don't normally go for it enough of the week, but I'm just over childish behaviour, so stay tuned for that one. I swear like a trooper a bit. It's not for young ears, so Bussy, let's. I don't know if my constant cursing at different stages helps or hinders the Hoops crew, but Ben, you'll tell me off if I need to be told off. The final game that we have a final result for so far is North Melbourne defeating Melbourne. And I've seen some footage of the Melbourne players copping an absolute earful from fans around the race, who are clearly not real fans if they're going to just abuse their players like that. But anyway, Ben said, could North be the 2025 Hawthorn? No, they're not developed enough yet. Melbourne are just a basket case still. North has broken a 6-game losing streak to the Ds. So again, another big cross against Ben's ridiculous tipping strategy this year. Melbourne is in crisis mode at 0-2, I believe is a typo there. 0-2. I'm getting incorrect facts provided to me. No, did they win last week? Someone remind me. Did the Ds win last week? Match center, round 1. Oh yeah, no, they lost last week. So yeah, they're 0-2, not 2-0. Don't worry, we'll fire Ben. Whilst North, they're sitting one apiece, one win, one loss at this stage. That then takes us to the live game that is playing out as we speak. Currently, the graphic is correct, but I fully expect that to change before the game is out. The Dockers got off to a fantastic start, but are gradually being whittled away by the Swans here, and I don't think the Dockers will be able to hold out. At 3/4 time, the Dockers lead by 2 points, 8-8-56 to the Swans, 7-12-54. You can see the worm here. They've been just inching it down bit by bit since the first quarter, and you suspect it is, they stole the lead there briefly before Banfield kicked the latest goal in the match. You can see where this is headed as far as I'm concerned. I think this will end in a Swans win, but we'll all keep a bit of an eye on it as this game plays out. Who knows? The Paul James Show here might become half of a watch-along for the Fremantle and Sydney game. And then, of course, just to put a bow on the round outside of this game that is currently live, we had 2 teams with a bye this week. That was Gold Coast and the GWS Giants. They'll be back at it next week. The VFL side of things, Geelong defeated Sandy by 31 points. George Stevens had 32 disposals. Now, I'm seeing these numbers for the first time here. I haven't checked this out. George Stevens with 32 disposals fills my heart. I I'm really confident that he's going to be an absolute jet of a player, especially as he's been building his tank and his aerobic capacity, which was probably the biggest criticism I heard from some recruiters that I knew. That was their biggest concern and why some of them didn't go for him. Geelong showed the faith and he's starting to pay it back. 32 disposals, a fantastic effort. Mitch Duncan with 24 disposals. I think he's going to be kicking that door down to get himself back into the senior team. And I can see the likes of O'Sheen Mullen potentially giving way for him sometime soon. Gary, I'm going to put a pin in that comment for now, not because I don't want to address it, because I think there's a big conversation to be had there, but I'll save it for Q&A. I think if we go back to that topic shortly, it'll be a good one to discuss. Matt Rowell versus Harley Reid is a really fascinating conversation. Ollie Wiltshire with 3 goals, 4 from 16 disposals. Is a fantastic effort as a small forward. Patrick Rechko, 1 goal straight from 23 disposals. And Shawnee Manor building his game up with 14 disposals and 5 tackles. I don't know what percentage of game time. That'd be really interesting if he played even more minutes. But I feel like if he got even close to 3/4 of a match, then I think he's probably back in next week for the Lions match. Jack Martin, on the other hand, did not play. That takes us next. We'll flick away from the game for a moment and we'll look at the AFL ladder as it stands, where, come on. Here it is. As things stand, this is the live ladder, just to be clear. So the outcome of the Fremantle and Sydney game will not affect the Cats, will not affect really the top. If Fremantle will be currently go into this dead last. We'll see what happens at the end of it. Where are we? So if Sydney win, they'll be, there's not much to see. There's not going to be any significant changes. Hawthorn currently lead the way, having played 3 games, of course, but they've won all 3 with a generous percentage of about 130 at this stage. The Crows also doing everything they possibly can to impress early on. With the 2 wins from 2 matches and 172%. The Giants, 2 wins from 2 matches, 143%. The Pies, after an awful first week, have rebounded quite well. They're 2 wins from 3 games. The Lions, 2 from 2. The Suns, 1 from 1. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, they lost their open. Yeah, sorry, because of course they lost opening round. They're 1 from 1. This is going to mess us around all season long because the AFL has chosen not to fix it until the end of the year. Geelong, of course, we've just sustained our first loss. Good percentage, though. That's going to have us in good stead over the course of this early stage of the season. North, with their first win, have popped into the top 8. Don't think they'll be there for long, but savour it while you can, North fans. The Dogs, Port, St Kilda, Richmond, and Fremantle, based on the live results, are all there level with the Cats and the Suns in 6th and 7th. It's a long ladder right now, but we've got a few winless teams. Sydney, as things stand, could be 0-3, despite the fact that they've been highly competitive in everything. The Blues, Melbourne, Essendon, and West Coast yet to win. All right, before we jump across to our next segment here, a comment from Bussy. Just a reminder to everyone, in 22, we lost in round 2. We also lost to the Saints in 22. Let's be positive and say it's a good omen. In fact, we lost to the Saints and then didn't lose a game from that particular point. The rest of the season, we're going to go back to back to back to back to back with every single game we play. That's how this thing works. Right? Before we jump into our next segment here, let's talk about the games next week as I quickly also flick back to the live match. No, actually, we'll bring that back shortly. So next week, Essendon and Port, Thursday night at Marvel Stadium. That's an interesting one to have it at Marvel. I guess they've been trying to have a lot of these Thursday night games interstate because numbers-wise it works, but we're at Marvel. So Essendon Port, 7:30 Marvel Stadium. Carlton and the Bulldogs, 7:40 at Marvel Stadium on Friday night. Then the Saturday games, Melbourne and Gold Coast at 1:20 at the G, St Kilda and Richmond, 4:15 at Marvel Stadium. Hawthorn and GWS at UTAS, 7:35 on Saturday PM. The big grand final, the big prelim final rematch, the game that we're all excited for here, Brisbane and Geelong, 7:35 at the Gabba. Not the greatest thought process really from the AFL when they decided to reschedule that game. Drop it on the Saturday night where you've got essentially two gigantic blockbuster matches. The Hawks and the Giants are going to be two of the teams to watch for the year. Brisbane and the Cats, probably just exactly the same. Crazy to me that they decided to drop the game there. But anyway, 7:35, the Gabba, Saturday night. Adelaide and North Melbourne will be kicking off Sunday football, 3:20 at Adelaide Oval, and West Coast and Fremantle with the, what do they call it? The Derby, the Western Smash. I've forgotten the name. Anyway, Derby. I've forgotten the name for their matchup. But anyway, Sunday 6:10, that'll be our time, 6:10 at Optus Stadium, while the Pies and the Swans will have the bye. All right. Before we get to our next segment, which is the very mouthy Nuff of the week, it's time to take a word from our sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist.
The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at Shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
Thank you, Cyril Cook Florist, as always, for all that you do in your support of the Hoops Crew. Now, we're about to kick to Nuff of the week here. I will say I have taken the feedback from the last few weeks where I'll have the ad go for Cyril Cook. Then I play Nuff of the week with it, which is an early access version for everyone watching live, which then contains the Cyril Cook Florist ad yet again. I've done you a solid. I've cut it out for this live version. Let's get to Nuff of the week. Paul here from the Hoops Crew, and it is Nuff of the week time. You've already seen the heading. I'm picking on Bulldog supporters today, and presumably a bunch of neutrals as well. May or may not even include some of our own beloved Geelong supporters, but we'll never know. Let's get into the core of what happened. Everyone is aware of an incident that occurred during the Collingwood and Bulldogs game the other night. There was basically a spoiling attempt from Rory Lobb that connected with Mason Cox, sent him from the field, dazed, bleeding, at a fairly pivotal point in the game. Now, since then, and let's be really, really clear on this, since then, it's gone through the match review process and Rory Lobb had no case to answer. And I 110% agree with that. It was a perfectly fine spoiling attempt. And I think that was abundantly clear. He was trying to spoil the ball. He just clumsily, I don't know what the right word is to describe it, but clumsily connected with Mason Cox's face. Whilst it was kind of a glancing blow as the punch kind of came through and caught the side of the face whilst going for the ball. And yeah, it sent him from the field. It maybe could have been grounds for a free kick on the day, potentially. I'm trying to recall now exactly how it played out from that moment. Free kick, yeah. Anything else? Absolutely not in my opinion. But it has not stopped the riffraff, the filth of the world really piling in on Mason Cox, of all people. We'll get into that after a word from our sponsor. Now, you will see, and I'm going to have to quickly strike my little thumbnail here, my lower thirds from it, just so that we can see everything in this particular case. This is a post that Mason Cox shared on his Instagram after the game, sometime after the game, maybe the next morning. I'm not 100% clear on the exact timing of when it went live, but it really highlights the filth that we're working with here. Now, I am not saying that Mason Cox is my favorite player. Far from it. He represents Collingwood, and so as far as I'm concerned, without being absolute trash to the guy, he's bottom of the pile, simply because he's a Pies player. But there's a basic level of respect, regardless of who the player is and what team they represent, that we should all be showing. Mason Cox did nothing wrong in this scenario. He competed for the ball and copped a stray punch to the side of the face. Again, I don't believe it was a deliberate one, just a stray punch that clipped the side of his face and drew blood and sent him from the field. And yet, here are the comments that you see that I have to assume the majority of come from Bulldog supporters because, of course, they were the opposition of the night. So we've got the first one here. Thank you, Rory Lobb, for your services to Australia. Rory Lobb has won the heart of every Australian. Hopefully you left the field on the first plane back to the USA. Deserved it. This gives my brain happy chemicals. I mean, because someone had to do it eventually. Cox getting absolutely chinned in the is the best thing since sliced bread. And the final comment there, deserved. You can see that Mason Cox is then kind of captioned himself saying, I love Australia, but also think it has a long way to go. It's just rubbish behavior. And I've gone down this road before with other videos across the last 12 to 18 months with Nuff of the Week. And this is not new ground that I'm kind of carving out here, but I feel like I'm going to have to keep going back to the well time and time again. Parents, if you've got really, really young children, block their ears for a second. This behavior is fucking bullshit. It should not be going on. I am not saying you have to love Mason Cox. I don't love Mason Cox. I'm not part of the tall poppy syndrome bullshit crew who go after him just because he's built a bit of a profile and he's got a lot to say on social media and he's got a kind of a fun personality. No, we need to celebrate people like that. We need to celebrate what he does. We need to celebrate when Patrick Dangerfield wraps himself up in bandages and comes in on crutches, despite the fact that he's pretty much fine for a press conference. These sorts of personalities ensure that our game isn't boring. So stop going after them, dickheads. I'm so tired of this sort of behavior. It is childish beyond belief. And then, depending on the player, you then start to get racist comments in there. You get homophobic comments tossed in there. Like, it's all just pathetic. You don't have to love the opposition. That's fine. But you can avoid being a dickhead in the process. And so the message that I want to send out to every single one of these people, and presumably dozens more who also got in the comments there as well, just fuck off. Get off social media. Stop being a dickhead. The chaps say this all the time. If you go and see what Jake and the chaps have to say on the Chaps Chat Cats shows, they will talk about getting off social media all the time, especially platforms like Twitter, where it's often at its worst. Instagram, not too far behind, to be fair. If you've got, it goes back to that old saying that we're all taught as kids. If you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And it's as simple as that. Don't say anything if your plan is to be an arsehole the whole time. If there's something constructive, but you've got harsh criticisms, by all means, go for it. But you can avoid being a dickhead in the process. And that's what we're seeing time and time again, is people being dickheads. And I just can't cop it anymore. It is what is driving people away from social media platforms. It is what is creating division in society. And sorry, I did say homophobic. I did say racist. There's also the misogynistic stuff as well that goes on. Like, it's just insane. And we should be so far beyond this in 2025. You can still crack jokes at people's expenses. You can still but you don't need to wish them harm or completely belittle someone. Like, it's so unnecessary. And I don't get it. I don't get how we're still in this situation in 2025 of all years. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the matter. We've got a Collingwood player who's been struck, a Bulldogs player who did the striking, who's been, I think, rightfully given no sanction for the incident. Totally fine by me. But the behavior of the masses make it look far worse than it is. Mason Cox, I know you're not watching this, but Mason Cox, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. And this is the same to any player who cops it for injuries like this, for someone failing to come through and a part of someone's betting multi. Like, there's so many pathetic reasons why people behave the way they behave. And I'm just sorry to every professional athlete, be them in football, basketball, cricket, rugby league, soccer, whatever, netball, whatever it happens to be. I'm sorry to every single one of you have to be on the receiving end of this sort of stuff. We can be critical of people. That's fine. But as soon as you step over the line and get insulting, wish harm on someone, and just generally be an arsehole, well, you can get fucked. I've sworn enough in this episode. We're going to wrap things up there for Nuff of the Week this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope... All right, I'm back. I couldn't have said it better myself. So, with Nuff of the Week out of the way, and thank you to those kind of sharing some thoughts there along the way, the agreement. Again, apologies for the excessive amounts of French. I'm so tired of this sort of stuff. I'm sick of bullshit behavior from invalids, really. Just get a clue. Anyway, the football is live as we speak, and we'll continue to keep a bit of an eye on it. So I'll project those scores on the screen now, just so that we can. Oh, geez, I'm so glad I just called someone an invalid. Like, such a high caliber insult. But also sails over the head of most of those half-wits. Anyway, so we can see the live scores. I'm also keeping a bit of an eye on KO at the same time. The Dockers are holding on. We've had a goalless quarter so far. That is bound to break. But look, Sydney have been driving it forward more and more. What I am seeing from the Swans right now as we get to this, what are we, 12? Yeah, I mean, 12:04 on the clock. So obviously plenty of time for both teams. What I am noticing about Sydney's delivery at the moment is it's very similar to the way we tried to bomb the ball inside 50 in the final 10 minutes of the game. Did James Rowbottom just injure himself somehow? And Brodie Grundy's just come off and thrown the vest on. Might need to just pop some headphones on as we go and have a bit half a listen as to what's going on there. But anyway, I'll know, is that like an Achilles or something like that? But seem to be fine there. Glad I've got the support there. Also, apologies. I know in the video I was like, oh, I need to get rid of my lower third, and then proceed to forget to do it when I was re-airing it. So, yeah. Anyway, good one, Paul. Self 5. Oh, here we go. He could be the goal. No. Oh, lucky for Pierce, he got it out. Oh, free kick. Yeah, there's the Sydney's kind of pumping the ball in a bit like what we did last night. They're not lowering the eyes. There's not that composure. They're not looking for leading targets or creating space for each other right now. And that's, well, it's potentially not going to end well for them if that's the way they continue to play. But again, we're almost down to 10 minutes to go, and we are goalless so far. So it's just Banfield's just dropped a sitter. I still think the Swans will come out on top here, and apparently Bussy's driving that way as well, because you've got 5 minutes on your legs. Papa needs a brand new can of beans. My finances are so in the hole right now that I'm not betting on anything. Just need to save some money, and I'm not going to take the bet on the fact that the bet will work out and I'll make money back. So we're not foolish enough to make those sorts of irresponsible decisions. All right, it is Q&A time, so please, while we are keeping a bit of an eye on this Dockers and Sydney game, we'll keep it projected the whole way through it. I would love to start taking on questions. Now, I did see, and I've got to scroll back and see if I can find it. I think it was you, Gary, who made the comment about Matt Rowell and Harley Reid. Shea Bolton had a shot, but dropped short. You made the comment before about Harley Reid versus Matt Rowell. And look, for my money, if we're just talking about players and I guess how beneficial they'll be to the Cats in 2026, then I would also be on team Matt Rowell. And honestly, I think it'd be like, oh, here we go. Guy Amos is going to get a shot on goal. That'll put the Dockers up by 9, you would think. So I think Matt Rowell is more tailored to our needs right now. I think the ceiling on Harley Reid is higher. It's just a matter of there we go. There's the goal. What's holding him back? Is it just location? Is it the development system of the West Coast Eagles? There's a whole bunch of factors that could be involved in this. But the thing that we as Cats fans cannot ignore, and it is going to extract a video from me this week, and I know how much people love him. We were talking about him on the show either Thursday night or Sunday last week. Is those videos that I do about some of these high-profile players joining the Cats. And we'll see, that can of beans probably got a little bit harder to get now. It's too easy, right? Like, Harley Reid is a Geelong supporter from his childhood, and maybe that holds a bit of appeal. I mean, Christian Petrarca wanted to go to the Pies because he was a Pies supporter as a kid. Now, it didn't work out for him, and he stayed at the D's. And that was, just to be clear, with some level of insight into the situation, that was purely because the feedback from other clubs is, we cannot afford you. We can't pay that bill right now. But 12 months from now, let's see what happens. Now, Harley Reid is not at that point in his career yet. He's going to cost us a king's ransom, you'd think, in picks to extract him. Or you wait 12 months and you maybe try and get him as a when he's out of contract, and so his value has to drop. So that's certainly an interesting one. Ben is on team Reid to Geelong. I think, to summarize all that, I think Rao's the better fit for us. Reid, in the long term, could be the better player. But we've, of course, got Rao's a known commodity. Isn't Collingwood appealing to the AFL to get more access to future first rounds so they can get Rao? To me, that says Rao has already picked Collingwood as his next club. Can you explain that a little bit? I guess I've missed that news. Like, oh, geez, the Swans might have run out of tickets. They're delivering it quite well inside 50 at the moment. And again, this is what I go, exactly. Oh, there's some possums making a racket outside. This is exactly what kind of hurt the Cats the other night as well, which is just the delivery inside 50 wasn't considered. It wasn't smart, and lots of missed shots. And now, in this case, Fremantle going up their end and taking advantage of some opportunities. But he's missed. Oh, that gives him a chance. How long we got? 7 minutes to go, and they only need 2 goals. That's a woefully bad kick. Look, I mean, you say Reid, Reid has obviously got those Dangerfield and Dustin Martin sort of qualities, which is hugely appealing to any club, considering what both of those blokes managed to achieve. Oh, here we go. Oh, he's missed. Had no problem with that attempt on goal, though. I guess where Rowell is more Selwood, Reid is more Dangerfield and Martin. And I think then it's just a matter of what is the Geelong Football Club looking for. And I would actually argue right now we're probably looking more for a Selwood than we are a Dangerfield, because we've got our next Dangerfield. We've got our Max Holmes. We've got our Bailey Smiths. We've got those sorts of players. But we probably don't have the grunt of a Joel Selwood right now. So I'm wondering if, I guess in that conversation, I'll go back to my initial point. I think Rao probably addresses more needs for us right now, and potentially long term as well. Actually, as the more I think about it. That said, there's a possibility, and so stay tuned for a video. Where are we? 6.5 minutes to go. Dockers by 9. Good pickup by Voss. Oh, and he shanked it. I'm all for that. Gary's putting the plea out there. Please. Ollie's just dropped in. Can the Saints, mate? You can't be doing that. Goal. Very nice. Please, people, drop some thumbs on the video. Thumbs up, likes, all those sort of things. It helps with the algorithm, gets the videos out there for more people. Ollie, I won't be having any of that, mate. We love you. You've been you're one of our favourites from behind the play, but we won't be copping that. It's good to have you though, mate. We'd love to hear some of your thoughts. Bussy says my kids are going to be so heartbroken they won't be eating beans this week. They might, mate. It's back down to 3 points with 5 minutes ago. I didn't. The clock's off screen for the KO stream at the moment. But yeah, let me see if I can skip forward a bit. I can skip forward a bit. Nearly 6 minutes to go. Thoughts on downgrading expectations on Bailey Smith this year, especially coming off an ACL? There could be soft tissues, etc. Of course, that's always a risk, but he has had a long time to strengthen everything up. And I do think Geelong has taken that ultra conservative approach that they are known for doing. Round 2, I mean, I'm sure they didn't have it on the cards that we were going to lose to the Saints. And that's probably, leads back to that comment about arrogance before. But I think there was that kind of conservative approach. Like, let's not take the risk. This is not the finals. We don't need to make a 50-50 call. Let's look after the bloke, give him a week off, get him right for Brisbane. So I'm okay with that. Shadu asks a question I think is going to be discussed a lot this week. Do we need to bring in Stanley for Big O and send SDK back? It's a question I hadn't thought about too much yet, because I hadn't really gotten out of the review sort of mode from this match. But they'll be thinking about it. My gut feel right now is, it's probably the right decision. I think we do. I think we do need to bring Reece Stanley in, and if he comes in and he's in good form, then he sticks around for a while. I think that's important at that point too. I'm going to keep pinning Gary's comments here. Drop some likes on the video if you haven't already. If you're watching live, several of you are doing right now across YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, please drop some thumbs up on the video. It really does help with the exposure of the show and all other things that we're doing at the Hoops Crew. I'm just going to keep it pinned for a while until there's another question that pops up. Right now, I think yes. I think Reece Stanley does need to come in. 4 minutes left. Oh, that was a good leap from Jackson, but also great rebound from the Lizard. Watching this very closely. Sorry, folks, I can't project it. There's all sorts of licensing things. We'll get copyright struck, but also KO does an amazing job of preventing people from... if I go to share, it's just going to be a black screen. So... very interesting final few minutes here. And the Swans, this has been every game of the year so far. They've been close losses, so it'll be interesting to see if they can overcome that this time. Sling tackle downfield. What's going to happen? Yeah, downfield. Old mate Murphy Reed. Oh, that's a beautiful kick by Riley Bryce. Sorry, I'm keeping it close on it, but please keep pumping questions to me. Sad thing is that instead of watching the game, I'm watching you watching the game, praying for my beans galore to come through. We've got, what have we got? Less than 3 minutes left in the match right now. Freo doing a good job of locking him down. This is meant to be Q&A, but we're intently live reacting to the game right now. Oh, run, kid, run. Oh, no. Riley Bice has delivered that ball exceptionally well in the last few minutes. Heaney. They're busy talking about, I'm watching you, watching me. Oh, jeez. Oh, Marty. The bloke can't run at the moment. He can barely move, and he's wrestled a mark in, what's that, about 15 meters out, 45-degree angle. Keep an eye on the scoreboard in the stream, because that will update before I see what happens in the KO video, which will be delayed probably another 5 to 10 seconds beyond that. He's kicked a goal. There we go. I can. I'm interested in every match, and these are two finals contenders, so it's a really, I think early in the season for sure, but these are two teams that will be supposedly going to be there or thereabouts as the season plays out, and so with a chance that we might be vying for a top 4 spot with them, yeah, I'm interested for sure. What are we down to? 1 minute and 26 seconds left. Do we have, just while we do kind of have a bit of a watch along here, do we have any other questions around the Cats? Do we have any other questions around the competition more broadly? I spoke about the Harley Reid video. I am looking at doing one for Ollie Lord, who is back in the conversation. Geelong is showing interest. I think there was another player that was being discussed. Let me see. News. The Cats and the D's. It's a Herald Sun report. Let me see if I can't archive MD. Let's see if I can't break through that paywall. Oh, it was archived 2 days ago. Wait. Let me see if I can. We'll have to see if we can find it. If someone has a link to the Ollie Lord thing, please send it my way. I am interested to see what is being said about this young bloke. $41 seconds to go. Luke Jackson. Throw. Oh, a throw. Oh, speculation when Baz and Stewart come back in. So obviously Shadoo's already started to answer that one. Scotty said he was optimistic for Baz to come back next week. Yeah, I'm pretty confident of that as well. I think they took the ultra-conservative route, and I do think that was the right decision. Stewie, so yeah, I mentioned it earlier in the show. This is something, a PCL injury that could be as little as 2 and could be as much as 3 months, so about 12 weeks, as Shadoo talks about there. Oh, no, how about we don't tune in to First Up with Kane Corns? So I don't know. It could really go either way. Oh, head high, Warner. The Dockers will be 0-2. 14 seconds to go. Warner's got a free kick on the halfback flank. Run. Oh, there you go. There's the chip behind. Oh, not 15. Oh. Siren beat him. Swans win. Rough. There was probably 2 seconds different there for. Oh, Jackie has delivered to my inbox. I've tried the archive MD thing and it didn't work. Let's see what Jackie's got here. You're too good to me. Oh, no, sorry. That is just the link to the Super Footy article. Either way, yeah, Cats and D's are the ones that are chasing him, and the Cats are surely more appealing. There's family ties. There's all sorts of reasons why he could potentially go to the Cats. I'm all for it. It's going to be raining beans in the Bussy house this week. Congratulations. Oh dear. Trust in your tips, Ben. No one's going to trust your tips as far as we can throw them. No worries, Gary. Thanks for coming on the show, sharing your thoughts as always. All right. Any other questions? We've gone the hour. We haven't done a huge amount of Q&A within this Q&A section because we've been a little bit caught up with the live watch along there. But Sydney have basically trailed all day and have popped up in the lead when it counts at the end. They led for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 10% of what Fremantle led by, but at the end, they win. So, what do we got question wise? Otherwise, we'll start to bring this one home. We've gone an hour. We've had a good run so far tonight. I don't think there's too many things that we haven't answered through things like the review video, conversations we haven't had already through Nuff of the Week, etc. But if there's anything else that people want to discuss, this is your chance to ask those questions before we wrap things up for the night. Stick around with me, or you're going to have to watch Kane Corns and Sarah Ollie on, what is it? The First Up with Kane Corns. And everyone likes Kane Corns. Oh, Mozzies. Howdy. Sorry, and I smashed the mic there in the process too. Do you ever go with the singular James instead of James? Can't say I have. Might need to go. I'm greedy. I'm a greedy individual. I'm sorry. I'll do better. I'll go buy James next time. Well, in my household, there's 4 of us with the same surname, so we're a group of James. Zzz. 1 James, 2 Jameses. 3 Jameses, 4. Anyway, I'm glad we hit that up. Look, it's better than some of the conversations we're having this time last week. So I'll take it. All right, we might wrap this one up. We're getting a little bit loose here at the end. That is the end of the Paul James show for this Sunday night. Debriefing on the Cats and the Saints. Unfortunately, a loss is what we had. But I think there's lots of positives in the youth of the Cats that really stood tall when a lot of the senior guys weren't early on in the piece. So I don't love the result. There's plenty of things to get really frustrated about, but there are positives to be found there. And I hope that you found them as well. Look at the likes of Connor O'Sullivan and Ted Closey and Jai Clark and what they delivered, because the future is looking pretty good. And we did that without a midfield unit around them that was really doing much. We did it without Bailey Smith. We did it without Tom Stewart for the majority of the match too. There's positives in it. Should never have happened, but there's positives in it. All right, we'll wrap this one up. Thank you, everyone, for having tuned into the Paul James Show tonight. Consider, if you haven't already, dropping a like on this video, subscribing to the Hoops Crew on YouTube, and tell your friends and family. Bussy, make sure you tell your entire family to subscribe, because this result that we were all cheering on got you some beans for the week. All important beans. Drop comments. If you're watching it live, you've been doing so for quite some time. If you're watching this after the fact, please consider sharing some thoughts on all of the topics that we discussed tonight. We'd love to chat with you even after the fact. We'll reply to almost every video that comes through. Or if you just posted something that's awesome, we'll at the very least drop a like on it, because the community is awesome. We love all of you. You're doing an amazing job. And don't be like those stupid Bulldog supporters who are having a crack at Mason Cox. Oh, we don't need to worry about super chats. The show is done. Follow us if you haven't already. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram and Blue Sky at Paul James Games. Happy to chat with you there about any topics you wish to discuss as well. Thank you, as always, to our sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist. And if you haven't already, consider checking out the Patreon. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial where you can check out all the things that we're offering there. That is early access content, exclusive content, and extended content. And that all relates to some of the slate this week, which we'll talk about in a moment. Monday night, Ben returns with his round 3, just the tips, the tipping point. I just don't want to acknowledge it by its real name because just the tip is better. But anyway, the tipping point, round 3, see how many tips Ben gets wrong because his system is completely and utterly flawed. But of course, also go check out, if you're not part of it already, but you're already using things like Footy Tips, go sign up to Footy Tips, join the Hoops Crew League, see where you're placed against everyone else. I might even try and have a sneak peek there myself right now, just to see how that has me positioned. I know within my work league that Sydney and Fremantle result has been absolutely perfect for me. We had a few early front runners that have just been pulled back to the pack because they both tipped Fremantle. Of course, Footy Tips is struggling right now. Anyway, so consider joining this. Oh, hang on, here we go. Now it's starting to load. Competition. Let me check the ladder. Hang on, let me check my work one first. We may as well suss out how I'm going there right now. I am on 12 tips for the year. Oh, have they not processed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They haven't processed that, so I'll be on 13. But let's take a look at the Hoops Crew tipping for the year. We have had, going into this round, 2 people that hadn't gotten a tip wrong all season long. That includes the Richmond and Carlton game, which is mind-boggling to me. We've finally had some action here. Chloe Katz and Rob Pat both. We've now got who were the front runners initially, have now dropped a couple this week. Slip back to the pack. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people leading the race on 15 tips, including AFL Glicko, who you see on Twitter fairly often. And I scroll through the list. Baz Lenker, number 1 on 14. There's a long list of people on 13 and 14 tips for the year. Ben, what are you on? Let me know in the comments. How many you've got right so far? Anyway, that is the tipping point. You'll catch that on Monday night at 8:30. Tuesday night at 8:30. The Chaps Chat Cats, of course, they do things far better than I do. 12 so far. So your process isn't really leading you to much success, is it? The Chaps Chat Cats, and do it far better than I do. Far more humor in it. Much less swearing most of the time. They're doing a great job. Who's this clown? Using language like Ted Closey's and such is evidence you think in abstractions and not in reality. No intelligible method of inquiry uses such terms other than football heads, which are thick. Thanks, champ. Wednesday night on Patreon, the twos, where the focus will be George Stevens and Ollie Wiltshire, and both have put in a pretty fantastic performance this past weekend, and will be making strong cases for themselves going forward. So consider checking that one out. Thursday night, the Paul James Show is back again to preview the round 3 matchup against the Lions. And of course, there will be a live game playing at the same time. We'll keep half an eye on that as well. Saturday night, there's post-game live. Join Ben and everyone else who jumps into the call. Lucas, you can bet your bottom dollar will be there with some harsh words, even if we win by 100 points. And lots of others to share their thoughts as well. We'll obviously have post-game Bianca and Declan as well to check out. Then on Sunday, the Paul James Show returns again to review that matchup and cast an eye forward. Ben also makes sure to shout out free pizzas for the best. Ben, who got because I didn't get to tune in or make it on Saturday night, who got the free pizza this week from Post-Game Live? Would be keen to hear from you in that regard. More of these mosquitoes kicking around. Sorry about that. All right. As Ben provides an answer in the chat there, Thank you, everyone, for having tuned in tonight. It has been a blast again. A Nomad Hunter. Awesome with the win. You had problems with the audio when using the StreamYard. There's something we'll definitely look into. Sorry, I haven't actually tuned in, so I wasn't sure, Jared, whether you're on it or not. But Ben, that's some feedback you can take there. All right. Thank you, everyone, for having tuned in tonight. As always, your support means so much to us and what we're doing at the Hoops Crew. Like I said, like, share, and subscribe to this video. Suggest that friends check it out. Join in the chat. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot, everyone. Remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you later.